What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Sci-Fi Wire live stage. How's everybody doing here at C2E2? There you go. See, you got it. You understand. This is what, there you go. Everybody needs to follow this man in the front. My next guest is none other than Jason Aaron. Now, those of you who know, well, if you don't know Jason Aaron, I don't know why you're here, but he's written everything from Thor, The Other Side, Ghost Rider, a lot of things from Marvel. Also an Image. Everybody knows about Southern Bastards, right? So let's give a warm welcome to Jason Aaron.
Thank you.
So we have a little bit of time with you, so I have questions. How did you get into this whole comic book game?
Like, how did I break into comics?
How did you break into comics? Because I heard it's a unique story.
Yeah, kind of. It was 17 years ago, I guess. I won a Marvel.
So you started when you were 12.
I wish. Yeah. I won a Marvel Comics talent search contest, which actually I entered here in Chicago. It was at the Wizard World Chicago show.
Oh, wow.
It was in Rosemont. This is a contest Marvel had never done before, and they haven't done since, so I guess I kind of ruined it for everybody.
He's a Highlander.
Right.
There could be only one.
But I came to the show here. I had typed up a pitch for like a one-page Wolverine story, dropped it in a box, you know, in a pile of other pitches. And it was months later, I was at work at my, day job, and I had a voicemail from Mike Martz, who is the X-Men editor at Marvel.
Wait, hang on a second. You guys know what a voicemail is, right? I'm just checking. That's okay.
But literally my first thought was like, oh, that's really weird that he would call me just to tell me I didn't win. Like, that's kind of a jerk move.
Little did you know.
Right. So that was my first ever comic story. Was a 8-page Wolverine story back in 2002. And
then right after that, they hired you and you just kept writing, right?
Right. Well, that's what I thought at the time. I thought like, oh, I'm gonna be writing Spider-Man next week. It was like 4 years later before I had my next book. So it was probably the 4 years I've worked the hardest in my time at comics. Mm-hmm. I just had nothing to show for it in terms of nothing coming out. It was just me pitching and writing constantly. And then I ended up, my first full book was The Other Side, which was a war story at Vertigo. And that led to Scalped, which was my first ongoing series. And that lasted 60 issues. And then that kind of led to everything I've done at Marvel.
So you were sort of a 10-year overnight success story.
Kind of, yeah. I kind of had to break in twice. So, the talent search contest was kind of got my foot in the door a little bit, cracked the door open, to where suddenly I had email addresses so I could email editors and actually get responses. It just took me another 4 years before I really had books coming out. And since then, it's been my full-time job.
Awesome. Well, a lot of people I know are here to talk a little bit about Avengers, right? So let's talk a little bit about New Avengers and Fresh Start. Now, tell us for the two people that might be here or watching that don't know, what is Fresh Start?
I think that's just the tagline for the new launches of books Marvel has coming out soon. It kind of started with Legacy last year. We were sort of looking ahead, trying to do new stories we hadn't seen before with these characters, while also looking back and honoring the long legacy of these characters that goes back decades.
Right, that was when and Legacy was when you had the double covers with a lot of the, almost each character meeting their other counterpart.
Yeah, and Legacy numbering. And,
yep.
I wrote the Legacy one-shot that came out, which was this big, I remember how big it was, 40 pages?
Yeah, it was 40 pages.
Really big, it had sort of every character you can imagine in it. And the seeds were planted in that for what I would be doing in Avengers, even though, we didn't announce that at the time. I was already working on it. And so, if you've read that Legacy one-shot, the stuff with the caveman Avengers I set up in that, that feeds into this. If you haven't read that, you can pick up Avengers #1, and you got everything you need to know right there.
Great. And so, with this new, and you mentioned numbering, because that was my main question. I'm like, okay, so what number is it going to be when I pick up Thor or...
Right. Well, I think I get the gripes about numbering. I'm a giant nerd. My basement attests to that. My wife tells me all the time, like, why you have too many comic books? And I'm like, this is my work-related research library.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I find that very strange because you work in comics. She's like, why do you have all these comics? Like,
well, She means you got too much crap in the basement, is what she means.
But you're right. Work-related
Right.
research lab
Exactly.
is what it needs to be named.
Exactly. So yeah, I get the gripes about numbering. I'm a big nerd too. Got tons of comics. With the Fresh Start books, you know, it'll be Avengers #1, but it'll also have the legacy numbering on there too. So it'll be number 600 and whatever.
Okay. So for new people who are kind of jumping in, they don't have to think, oh my God, I haven't read 595 issues. I'm not going to know.
Exactly. It's still it's called Fresh Start, so it's a fresh jumping
reason.
on point. Thor's kind of the same way. I mean, I've been writing Thor for 6 years, so this is in many ways the third act of my Thor run, but it's also still a fresh start for the character, and that, you know, we just wrapping up the Jane Foster story. This brings Thor Odinson back, him regaining his mantle. It's still not quite the way it used to be. Things have changed for him and for Asgard and for everything, but it's still very much a fresh start.
Now, Ed McGuinness, you're working with, like for a lot of this. Tell us about the things that he's working on, and then also some of these other artists that you have coming in.
Yeah, Ed's doing Avengers. He and I worked together on Amazing X-Men a few years ago, so it's great to be working with him again. Yeah, and he's amazing. I think if you've been to any of the Marvel panels this weekend, you've probably seen some of the pages. If you track down Tom Brevoort, he's got the issue on his iPad. Maybe you can talk him into letting you read it. Ed's doing amazing stuff.
Tom Brevoort's about to get jumped. Poor thing.
Don't beat him up. Ask nicely, I said. I'm sure it's password protected.
There you go. Okay, so if we see him, we're going to very calmly corner him and ask him to very kindly show us his iPad or else.
Tell him you're a good friend of mine, and I
There
said
you
you could read it.
He's going to come to your table. Dude, did you tell the people at SYFY that I was going to show them the next issue?
Let me just give everybody his phone number, and then you can just call him and figure out where you're going to meet up.
That's what we
with
do
him.
here at SYFY. We start controversy.
So yeah, Ed's doing amazing stuff. It's crazy stuff he's got to draw. He's drawing tons of Celestials, who are those, giant 2,000-foot tall space gods, Kirby designed. He's getting to draw some of the biggest, most iconic characters from the Marvel Universe. Like, this is the Avengers #1 is the first time in years we've seen Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and Thor Odinson together again at the heart of an Avengers team. Plus, you get Black Panther and Hulk and Captain Marvel and Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange. So it's a lineup of big, iconic Marvel characters.
And you mentioned Ghost Rider. This is Robbie Reyes
Right.
that you're using.
Right, he's the new kid in the group. Right?
Yeah.
You always want somebody who's like a fresh face, who doesn't know these other characters. They don't know him. He's never been a part of a big kind of world-shattering event story like this. So he's here. He's the fresh eyes. He also drives a car, which I love. I love having an Avenger who this is like a spaceship party, and he shows up driving a Dodge Charger.
Yeah, that's what I think is
Who is this
awesome.
kid?
Yeah, like everybody's got like superpowers or whatever, and he does have powers, but he shows up in his ride like, what's good?
Right. No, it is like a demonically possessed hell charger.
Right.
So it's pretty
It
badass.
is, yeah, no, it's
car.
totally badass.
Right. So yeah, I love him. I love the Ghost Rider stuff. Ghost Rider was the first ongoing book I ever did at Marvel back in the day. So I love getting to play with that stuff again. And I hadn't written Robbie before this or before the Marvel Legacy one-shot. We seeded some of that stuff there. So yeah, he's really fun to write.
Now, you mentioned that he was fun to write. Let's talk about some other characters that you've really enjoyed writing over the years. And they don't have to be obviously Marvel characters because you've worked for several companies. So what are ones that that you worked on that you were like, this was, even if it wasn't necessarily a commercial success, one that you felt was like the most rewarding thing that you worked on?
Well, I mean, Ghost Rider was very much that. I mean, Ghost Rider was my first book where I could kind of start to make my name, even though it didn't sell well. I was taking over like Ghost Rider number 20 or something. And the book got canceled, by the time I was done. So yeah, it wasn't a sales success because nobody knew who the hell I was. I was pretty new. But I loved playing with that stuff. I loved, we had tons of Ghost Riders show up over the course of that arc. There's a Ghost Rider who rides a shark.
Who in here remembers the Shark Ghost Rider?
That guy.
They're like, she's like, I have never heard of this.
That guy, me and
Oh,
that
he
guy
saw it? There
were
you
on
go.
the same page, yeah. Yeah, so I loved getting to play with that stuff. So I don't know. I mean, I've been really lucky in my Marvel career. I've been there for about 12 years now, full time, and everything's kind of built. I took over Thor at the right time. Now I've been writing it for 6 years, and I've been telling one long Thor story. And it's the first time, at Marvel where I kind of had the confidence to just say, like, I'm going to take this character, and I'm not leaving unless you make me leave. I'm going to wait till I'm done. Like, I'm going to lay tracks.
So he's holding hostages.
Pretty much. Like, thankfully, nobody's shown up and said, we're going to take this away from you.
Right.
But sometimes you hedge your bets. You don't know, like, well, maybe I'll get a year on this character, because, there's going to be relaunches, there's going to be changes. But I kind of just stood my ground and said, no, I'm going to lay tracks. It's going to take me years to finish this story. And, I'm still not there yet. 6 years in, and we still got a little more to go. So I was kind of just at the point where I had the confidence to say that. And thankfully, the book has sold really well. And, we've done multiple different Thor series, but to me, it's kind of all been one big story. And then the new book with Mike Del Mundo on art, which looks incredible, is kind of the third act, again, of my whole run. So it's good to, that sort of feeds into Avengers, that level of confidence of like, all right, I've been here a while. I think I kind of know what I'm doing, maybe.
Right, sort of,
right.
kind of,
I don't think they're going
maybe.
to take away from me just yet, so I'm going to play with all the toys I want to play with.
I love it when creators of his caliber go, I don't know, I think maybe I figured it out.
Well, I think that's good. I think that's healthy. Like, of course, all artists, we're all very tortured, and we all think we're terrible down deep. Like, I think that, that's good as long as it's not debilitating. Like, I love what I do, and I don't know how to do anything else. Like, I have no marketable job skills. So if I screw this up, and look at me, I can't go for a job interview looking like this. Like, this is all I got.
You could be a bouncer.
That's good. That's my option. If I get Avengers canceled, I'll become a bouncer.
I'm pretty sure that you could probably sell everything in your basement and be a gazillionaire.
Or I could open a comic store.
You could do that.
See, I can't be a bouncer because this is all a facade. Like, I can't win a fight. Please don't come try to fight me over anything, because I will lose.
So if Tom Brevoort calls you to help save him from the hordes of people that are trying to steal his iPad, you're like, dude, I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're talking about, Tom. I
I'm
never
sorry.
told anybody that.
I don't know what happened. So talk about process a little bit. As a writer, when you're working with an artist, do you do you write out what you want them to draw? Like, do you get very specific, or do you have a shorthand with certain artists?
I don't write super detailed scripts because I can't draw. I'm really terrible at drawing. I suck at Pictionary. I'm really bad.
So can't play Pictionary, can't fight. All right.
Right. Why are we just listing all my faults? I can't grow hair either. Like,
right.
Do you want to add that to the list?
Nobody knows. It's just these people and the live stream.
Right. It's not being recorded, right?
Nope.
All
Nobody's seeing this.
Good. Yeah, what was the question?
We've completely freaked him out. No, I was saying, in terms of your process, you said you don't really write really specific for the artist.
Well, you're right. I mean, I get to work with literally the most amazing artists all over the world, right? Literally all over the world, people who live everywhere. Why should I tell them how to draw something, right? Like, my job is to give them the tools they need and then get out of their way and let them do it. Ed McGuinness can draw anything I can imagine. So I'm just trying to set him up. I don't need to tell him, oh, do it, draw it from this angle, draw it from that angle. He knows how to do that.
So you really just maybe give them dialogue and some of the outlines?
It's a full script, so it's broken down into panels, and then all the dialogue is in there too. But it's not hyper detailed. It's not me trying to dictate shots or anything. And if you want to, if I wrote it in 4 panels and you think you need 6 to do it, by all means, or the reverse, So
have you done that? Have you written something that you think is going to be done in 4 and 6, and somebody gives you a splash page and they're like, that's it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I worked with Chris Bachalo. I've worked with him a lot. We did Wolverine, the X-Men, and Doctor Strange together, and he'll draw these crazy 16-panel pages that no writer would ever have the guts to write. Like, a lot of artists would kill you if you tried to get them to draw 16 panels, but Chris loves it. So I'd write a 3-panel page and he'd turn it into 16, or I'd write 1 splash page and he'd draw 3. So yeah, he changes it up however he needs to. But we worked together a lot, so we were able to figure out a scripting format that worked well for both of us.
Awesome. Now, swinging back a little bit to Thor, you mentioned that you're happy about this world that you've built and what we're about to see, and I know you can't spoil it, but in terms of fresh start and where we're going with these characters, What are some things that you're excited for people to see? And I know you can't give us details because Marvel snipers are real.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Thor because, you know, Thor 705 just came out, which was a big one. I won't spoil it if you haven't read it, but...
See, I told you, Marvel snipers.
Made lots of people cry. It made my mom cry. My mom's still not speaking to me.
Oh, my God. I'm just happy your mom reads your comics.
She does. Oh, yeah, my mom.
How cool is that?
My mom's, I'm pretty sure, the only great-grandmother in the country who's read every single issue of Southern Bastards.
I'm sorry. I need somebody to do a comic book about your life. About great granny and you not fighting and the basement and and Pictionary. Pictionary has to be the first issue.
You're not talking me into wanting to do an autobiography. That's not sounding real exciting. Maybe I should stick to superheroes.
But is there anything that coming, not Thor, coming up that you want us to see?
I can talk about Thor. I mean, I just don't want to talk. There's still 706 hasn't come out yet, which is sort of the end of, you know, the Jane Foster story. And that really changes a lot, not just for Thor, but his entire landscape, and that feeds into the new book, which is, again, drawn by Mike Del Mundo, who I'd worked with before, who I think is literally, you know, one of the best comic book artists working today. Just his covers alone are so eye-catching and mind-blowing.
Amazing.
And that's a weird sort of road trip to hell. So Thor and Loki go to hell and are reunited with Thor's brother Balder, who's the king of hell, who's driving a monster truck. So it's kind of like Dukes of Hazzard meets, you know, Hieronymus Bosch, like a weird...
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
...hell landscape.
Doesn't that sound awesome?
So yeah, it's a fun, weird romp with the Odinson brothers.
I just want the monster truck to meet Robbie in the Dodge.
Oh, that'd be a good race.
That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking,
gonna write that down.
I'll give you that one for free.
Oh, thank you. Can you sign this release real quick, though?
But yeah, no, I want that Hellspawn race happening.
That'd be good. Yeah, I'm down.
But yeah, see, and this is great that some of these other characters, and you also even mentioned earlier that a lot of the work that you're doing is staying true to Kirby and some of his vision and things like that. And I think that's the other thing that last year's update, as well as this one, I'm seeing a lot of that. There are odes to some of the original images and ideas.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the cool part about my job is I'm working with these toy boxes that people have been throwing toys into for 50 plus years, and I get to stand on the shoulders of these giants like Kirby. You know, when I'm doing Thor, I'm standing on the shoulders of Kirby and Walt Simonson and Straczynski and all these great creators who've worked on the character over the years. So I think you always want to honor that and take advantage of that, but at the same time, the way you honor those guys and their imagination is to do new stories, right? Not just pick the bones of what they did, which I couldn't do anyways. I don't know how to do a Jack Kirby story. I don't know how to do a Walt Simonson Thor story. I just know how to do the Thor stories I want to read. So I think that's the balancing act, I think, with anything you do for Marvel, right? You want to honor that, but not just, you know, we all know the good stories we love from the past. We can all agree on those. Let's do something we haven't seen before. And I think the Jane Foster story was, a good example of that. I'm really proud of that story. I'm really proud of how it played out, the effect and impact it had. It's the first time I would do signings where the fans are crying and I'm crying and everybody's crying. And
oh my God.
So, you know, that's a story that really affected
That's so emotional,
people.
yeah.
Right,
and I knew it was having an emotional response, but I didn't realize it was
My mom's crying. My mom's at home, angry at me. Somebody wants to fight me.
Oh, no. Social media did they tell you, like, oh, my God, you broke me?
Oh, well, sure, yeah. That's a whole other thing where you get people yelling every day. Like, you go on social media and someone tells you you're amazing, someone tells you you're terrible, and I think that's the way it should be, you know? I'm somewhere in the middle.
Right, you made somebody feel something. Okay, so brass tacks. Who dies in Infinity War?
Oh, I wish I knew. I mean, I wouldn't tell you if I did know.
I know. I just thought I could, like, switch it up. Well, actually...
Well, you're just trying to trick me and trying to sneak up on me and thought I would just tumble out?
Yeah, like, It's been, like, 20 minutes of smoothing you over to get the real question.
No,
well, actually,
to that
alcohol
involved. We're going to go down that road.
Oh, okay, this is good to know. Alcohol, iPad. Who's with me?
Shots. So
we're going to get this done.
Shots.
Shots. There you go. I like you.
Jello shots.
So actually to that end, in terms of the MCU, how much are you actually kind of required to stay in balance with what we're seeing?
Not really at all. I mean, I think we'll get heads up of like, hey, you might want to know this just so you're aware of it. But I mean, I think we're very conscious of not wanting to chase after what they're doing. I think, of course, you want somebody who walks out of the Avengers movie and enjoyed it to go pick up, the brand new Avengers #1 and be able to enjoy it, right? To be able to recognize enough of what they saw in the movie. But that doesn't mean that everybody has to look and sound and it has to feel exactly like that, or we have to be chasing after that. I think our job is to do the stories that they're going to make movies of 10 years from now, right? Like to be ahead of them.
That makes sense, yeah. Not to, hey, Black Panther made $90 million, so we need Loki and Thor to go to Wakanda.
Well, I mean, certainly like the having more people aware of those characters, like, more people know who Black Panther is today than they did 5 months ago, right?
Yes.
And that's a good thing. I think that certainly you want to make Wakanda a more prominent place. So you'll see, Marvel's doing more like specials set in Wakanda, which that's a good thing. That to me is not, we're not chasing after trying to make everything look and feel like the movies. That's just being aware of
what's
there's a
popular.
bigger spotlight on these characters, which is good. Let's take advantage of that.
Right, because those could be new readers.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for hanging out with us today on the stage and talking.
I feel like we revealed a lot, maybe too much.
We did. I now know you live. No, I'm kidding.
Did I say that?
No, Tom Brevoort doesn't realize what we just did, but hey. No, I really, really appreciate it. And I think everyone here appreciates talking to you as well. Right, guys?
Thanks. Mostly that guy.
And that guy, who we're going to get shots with him later.
I think he's already started without us.
So listen, don't forget, if you're watching this on live stream, and if you're here, if you're talking about us on social, please use the hashtag It's a Fan Thing and the hashtag C2E2 and let everybody know that this is where they need to be today. Up next, Kodansha Comics, and they're going to talk Ghost in the Shell, Battle Angel Alita, and more. Thank you guys. Don't go anywhere.